I am live. All right. How you guys doing? No intro, none of that jazz. Let's go to my YouTube page and see if I can share. Well, that's live on YouTube, and I should be live on Facebook. Let's see. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. I hope everyone's staying safe. I'm here working. Tally ho, I am live. Fantastic. All right. I hope everyone's doing well today. We're having a grand old time here, being self-quarantined, working away, if you will. Getting a lot of work done, which is good. Things get a little tough, a little frustrating, as you guys know. The quarantine has really shut down the printing industry. So we have a bunch of us who do not have the pencils down, order, scrambling, talking to printers, getting in touch with printers, trying to get in touch with printers because, when we get this book ready to ship out in the next month, we wanted to get it, to have a printer. And the problem is right now the printers are all closed. They're all closed down. The comic printers, at least. I mean, if anyone knows of any other printers, please send a little hello my way, if you will, so I could so we could contact them, because this is messing up my entire schedule for the year, because we had planned at least we were hoping for 3 more crowdfunding campaigns this year in 2020, and now we're just pushing everything back. If we got to get pushed back into early May to start shipping this book, we'll just we'll just only do 2 of them. But sucks. It's getting everywhere, isn't it, guys? So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing well. I'm having a grand old time. Self-quarantine really hasn't done much difference for me. Hasn't really changed my life much, except for Debbie yelled at me. I went to the stores this morning to get some coffee creamer, and Deb yelled at me when I got home. She was like, "Did you go out?" And I wore gloves and I didn't wear a mask. But then we ordered some Mexican food for dinner, and I did wear a mask when I went out. But que sera, sera. Let's see who's out there. Oh, Flo, how are you, honey? I hope you're doing well. Tom, good to see you. Varel, good to see you, sir. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's staying safe. I hope everyone's being responsible. And I've got a special guest I'm going to bring in right now, the one, the only, my friend since 7th grade, my co-writer, or should I say I'm his co-writer on She, Return of the Warrior, Mr. Stephen Peros.
Hey, oh. Billy Tucci, that was the fastest I ever got onto a live broadcast in my life. My God, my friend.
Lickety
I saw your invitation. I tapped in a few little numbers, quickly ran my fingers through my hair, as we all are quickly grooming ourselves these days in quarantine.
Yeah,
just to be.
I know. I didn't even put a brush to my hair. I'm like, to hell with it. Hey, old thing. I talked to JC Vaughn today, and I had asked him about going on.
Criminal. He's wanted in 9 states.
Yes, he is. Yeah, but they don't know where he is. He's calling from an undisclosed location. But let me show. There he is, Sporto. Let me send Jeff a link and see if he'd like to join us, because this is Team She.
That's right.
So how are you, my friend? How are you dealing? I mean, you guys have a very serious quarantine order, right? To stay in place, only allowed to go out for food or essential. How are you guys?
You're allowed to go out, if you like. I run, and so I go for a run every other day. I see someone ahead of me, I will definitely detour for more than 6 feet around them. But no, I mean, I don't think it's any different than what's going on in New York. You guys, it's all, we've closed a lot of businesses, not quote unquote non-essential.
Yeah.
Most restaurants are still operating for takeout and pickup. You're allowed to therefore go take out and pick up the food. Supermarkets still open. They've limited hours because these guys all need time to restock. But I think that's the same in higher places with bigger issues like New York. So no, there's no, they don't have the law isn't outside our door, arresting us if we step outside. It's but I don't think it's much. Aren't you guys on a similar situation where you are asked to stay at home unless absolutely essential?
Pretty much, or asked.
Yeah.
You know, Steve,
Yeah.
Long Island is.
Mhm. But yeah, no, hold it up. It's a good time to catch up on writing projects. As you know, as Billy knows, I also teach TV and screenwriting, which is now transitioned to online. So doing that, and being able to work on She Return to the Warrior, which is working side by side as
we're
some of
finishing up.
you
I'm doing a rough week where we're about to send another 20 pages to Brian Miller. That was going to be today, but some of the pages we have to fix some templates on some of the pages, but we'll send them out tomorrow. So I did all the notes that we discussed. So send me the link. Oh, good. Old Bean said send him the link. Good. Let's invite JC Vaughn.
Excellent.
But so we're moving today. I mean, lots going on, old chum. Lots going on. Let me go to
it has been a blast working on this, and we'll talk more in detail when JC's on. But being able to put together the treatment with you and work with the writing. And Billy, has given me. I've just been thrilled with the amount of leeway you've given me, since I don't. This is a character so near and dear to you that you have grown. That I thought, well, I'll be giving some suggestions of here and there of panels, and I'll be giving. He's probably going to rewrite all my dialogue since these characters are so close to him, and so I'm so thrilled that I have gotten in tune with how you hear these characters and how you see this story.
I love it. I love what you're doing. I'm so impressed, so happy. Let me just get this. All right, Old Bean, I'm going to send it to you to Old Bean at Outlook or Verizon. I just have to copy this address because I'm doing it here on my PC. I'm sorry, Stephen, but let's.
No. I understand. I'm not enough of a guest for you. You need to bring JC Vaughn.
You are far more of a. I can't handle you alone. That's why I need somebody else.
Well, for those of you wondering, JC was editor on my first graphic novel, Stoker and Wells. So JC and I can kid about JC because I respect him so much. He is a phenomenal a jack of all trades. He's not only a wonderful editor, but a tremendous comic book and graphic novel writer in his own right, which is part of what makes him a wonderful editor.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Because you can have someone that knows everything about writing, say, or about storytelling, but they've never written one. And a lot of those people become editors or critics, you have great editors, you have great critics, if you will, but the best are the ones that not only critique but do.
Absolutely. And in the arena, Billy Tucci, the man in the arena, as your favorite president Teddy Roosevelt said.
Charge. So anyway, all right. So you're keeping yourself in. You're catching up on work. Are you? You have any kind of proposals going? Any like pitches, things, new?
Yeah. Those of your viewers who don't, I've sold a few TV pitches, TV pilot 1-hour dramas in particular, to various networks, NBC, MTV, and I have something going on in European television that's prepping now. But so part of what I'm doing now is putting together, people are, even though the entertainment industry is on a big giant pause button in terms of physical production, because it basically puts a whole bunch of people in close proximity to each other. It is not slowed development. So I'm putting together a few different a round of pitches for 1-hour dramas. This one in particular I'm working on has a sci-fi component to it, because ever since my book Stoker and Wells, my graphic novel, came out, I have a whole new round of entertainment industry contacts who are interested in my in that arena for me, in that arena of science fiction. And
so you're saying that your graphic novel, now that you're a self-published, usually successful campaign, Kickstarter campaign, now you have this graphic novel, and you see that people are responding to the graphic novel.
Wow, yeah, they're seeing me in a different way. Yeah, in a way that they have not. I'm known for drama. There is a pilot I sold that has a bit of a fantastical element. A 1 hour drama I sold to NBC called Dorian Gray, which is based on Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray, and it deals in immortality and so forth. So and there's a paranormal element in the way I have extended it into a TV series. So yeah, there are certain, it makes sense for me to be presenting new shows to people that have that sci-fi element or fantastical element, and it's fun because it's something, as you know, Billy, is part of what brought us together as young men.
Yes.
Are as the term has been coined, monster kids, and
Yes.
so it's
Is that what the term? Is that what it was? It?
That's
Hey,
it.
I'm going to bring Jeff in.
All right, let's stop talking about him behind his back. Oh yeah, here,
on my back.
With really great audio and a really great camera. Thank you from the Blevins Media Center. Look
yes,
at
indeed. You elitist hair-wearing bastards.
We didn't comb our hair today.
Well, isn't that showing off?
Jason, you're looking less and less like you're in a Kubrick film. Usually, when I'm on our various work meetings with Billy via Skype, your camera is doing really funky things where I feel like I'm talking to.
I haven't learned how to do funky things with the new camera yet.
Let's keep it that way.
Blevins camera is outstanding, but I don't know how to. But I don't know how to blur the background, which I would actually prefer to do.
Oh, you should be able to do that.
There is a way to do it. I just haven't figured it out yet. I also haven't figured out how to make it work with Zoom, which of course is become increasingly critical. But it's live and learn. But
you know what I found? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I actually want to cut to the chase here and just say what you guys have been doing on She is incredible. And the thing that I think I bring to it as a other person who has written She in the past, both with and without Billy's cooperation, is that yes, thank you. No, I wasn't referring to that. I was referring to the 9-panel page. I really think what I'm able to do here is play more continuity cop and say, is this from Way of the Warrior or Junan or any of the other previous She stories, and make sure it's staying in character that. But story-wise, you guys are policing yourselves, so I don't have anything to worry about on the normal stuff that an editor would have to be doing for somebody that just invented a new character or some new writer coming in on an old character. You guys are taking care of that yourselves, and it's really just me keeping it and making sure it's staying in the spirit of what She would be 25 years later, asking logic questions along those lines and things like that. And you guys are really doing it all yourselves. I'm sort of along for the ride and going, hey, isn't this cool?
Well, you know what I like.
Oh, go ahead, Billy.
No, Steve, I think what's kind of cool that we're both that we're co-writing this is that we're both editing each other. Spend more time, when you get away and you get your own script and move on. But
even on the conferences I've sat in on, you guys were doing that.
Yes, it worked out, and we had a marathon 3-hour work balloon meeting about the final stuff to send to you, which you have the script, and going through all those pages and doing the word balloons, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. I mean, you changed everything was the same, but just how we edited ourselves and making word balloons, like that.
Yeah, we had a kind of, now that Billy was, now that we really just said, before we send this off to the letterer, let's you and I, now that you actually drawn the pages, let's go back over the script page by page with your panels, with the pages next to it. Let's make sure these work. Do we need to spread them out? Now that I can trim, we can trim some of these down, so that we know when we send it to the letterer that it's going to basically come back in a way that we're happy. But I just want to say to JC's point, part of what I'm doing here is not that different than what was going on with Stoker and Wells. My book Stoker and Wells about fictitious meeting of Bram Stoker and H.G. Wells and the genesis of Time Machine and Dracula, is that I wanted to make sure it would appeal to people who had never read the books before, and yet also appeal to those who have. Yeah. And so part of this is paying tribute, is to making sure I've gone through the books and make sure this plays beautifully for the people who know Way of the Warrior, know every word of Billy Anna Ishikawa's journey, and also don't know anything about it, and that they can actually pick this up fresh and not be lost. So how do we introduce backstory in an elegant way? How do we get Billy to draw, redraw, reintroduce? And he's obviously working with another artist as well, but Billy's doing beautiful roughs. So that some of those images can come back in that make the fans go, yes, this is she 2.0, but there's the original. There's the stuff from the old story.
I think that's one of the key things, and you guys have totally walked in that line. I believe it's incumbent upon you as storytellers and us as the team on the whole project to make it as widely accessible as possible. You don't want to just preach to the choir. On the other hand, maybe just as important, you don't want to insult the choir.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's one of my writing partners and I had this saying that mood was easier to insult than intelligence. And it's that fine line you have to walk to do that, what you guys are doing, and you're absolutely doing it. And I think that when we get to preview some of these pages through the Kickstarter and Indiegogo sites and let people see the update that's going on of what this progress is, they're going to be really excited that they back this thing.
Yeah, Jeff had a great idea, and I was kind of hesitant to do it. And I'm like, no, they have to wait to see the book. And Jeff's like, no, start sending in your updates. Start putting out there word balloon pages, colored word balloon pages, and the covers with the logos on them and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world. You guys were discussing that, and there's everybody is affected by this. There's nobody that can say, hey, it doesn't affect me. And the great thing about that is that there's a reason we're a little behind schedule on this, but it is so totally freaking going to be worth it.
Yeah,
what you guys are doing and what's coming in on the art, and I can't wait to see Mindy's lettering and Brian's colors on this, and more importantly, I want to see whatever Nile posts about it.
Funny thing, I was in my studio and I was like, who the heck's in my virtual studio here? Didn't even have the camera layouts right. It's like I come in and fix this.
What do you mean? The camera layouts weren't right?
Hey, you're using this thing. What is this? Oh, well, it doesn't do it. But you had the three. You got.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Well, the three that I used.
Holy schmolies!
See, but I didn't want to be the biggest one. I figured, I don't know how you'd pick it.
No, you look good when you had it nice. You had a little close.
It was big heads.
All right, now get me out of this because I don't know how I got into this.
Get him out of this.
There you go, fella. There you go, fella.
It really looked like if we could have dropped out the backgrounds, we could have been floating there going guilty, guilty, guilty.
Well, I want to leave for a moment, and you guys talk amongst yourselves because I want to change. My buddy Brad Chevaria said to change myself to quarantine sensation Billy Tucci.
Quarantine sensation.
Nice.
Nice.
So I want to change that.
Drop the quotation marks. Yes.
I think we're gonna lose. I think it'll run off the page, for God's sakes. Look at me. Look at me. I'm just fine. I'm just Steve Peros. What are you afraid of, Billy? Just leave it alone. Teen sensation.
I think it would have been a little. Yeah. I think it would have been a little more professional if it was Stephen George Peros. But who am I?
My sainted father. Yes. What are you gonna do? It's not here. I can't change it. How do I change such a thing?
Well, you'd have to leave right now. We'd have to walk out and then walk back in.
Yes.
I don't know. Do you? Let's see. You do have to? You can't just edit it?
Do.
Yeah, you do.
I believe you do.
I like when James in like that. I like when James Well, there we go.
All right, let me see if I can do it. Hang on.
Yeah, this is a perfect way to lose our viewers.
Yeah, I know. Let's have Billy disappear.
Forget it.
Let's have Billy disappear.
He just heard you say let's lose our viewers, so he jumped right back in.
I'm serious.
Stay on topic, Billy.
Let's
talk about she.
All right, but let's talk about your dad. Niall's father had a very rough accident at work.
Yes. Yeah,
sounds like he almost got killed. My wife, Debbie's father was Debbie's father was a trucker too. Now I didn't know that. Debbie's father was a teamster and a trucker. That's what he did for I don't know how many years, 30 years. Tell us about your dad. How's he doing?
He's doing good. He's doing good. He just went to see the company's doctor who agreed that he needs to go see a specialist. So what happened was, we had a contracting company for so long, but the body wears out. So he's like, hey, as a kid, I always wanted to be a truck driver. So he retired. And then, he doesn't do like the cross country stuff. He goes out for, 6 to 8 hours, every, 5 days out of the week or 4 days out of the week. And he drives. And that's his retirement. He loves trucks. He always has. He's a little kid. So anyways, he's in the yard, getting ready. And, obviously he works for a company called Bazzuto's, which supplies grocery stores. So he's an essential worker. So now they've upped their driving days and whatnot. So he's getting his trailer ready. And it's up to the driver to get the trailers hitched. So you're talking these massive, 40, 50 foot long trailers packed with groceries. Well, you got to pump the air jacks on the trailer to get the pins out. So what happened is when he got the last pin out, the trailer dropped and sandwiched him between the back end of the tractor where, the sets of dualies are. And he was on it. He was pulling his way out. So it collapsed right along here. So it completely dislocated the shoulder, pulled everything out. They rushed him to a hospital, but the one nearest was not equipped. So then they had to rush him to the hospital in our state capital in Hartford, the Hartford Hospital.
Jeez.
Yeah, they assessed him. I mean, he was good. He was lucky. He was able to reach his phone and call because all the rigs run, because all that, the whole fleet, those guys get loaded. They all, 50, 60 trucks, those guys all depart.
Especially right now.
Yeah. So all the trucks are running. He's yelling for help. He sees like a maintenance guy, and the guy's just like looking at him. He's trying to flag him, right? So then he was able to get his phone, and he called the dispatch guy and was like, I'm trapped under my truck. And they came, and I think they were able to pump it up. So, there was either a leak in the jack or he didn't have enough air in it. He's not sure. But, so now, his hand's really swelling up, more bruising starting to spread across his chest. So they've got an appointment with the specialist tomorrow. But with the whole corona thing, it makes it very difficult.
Oh, of course it does.
My dad's a good guy, but he's a stubborn guy. If the doctor says, how you doing? Even if he's in the most pain of his life, he'll say, I'm not too bad. Let me take some Tylenol and go home. So my poor mother's like freaking out because she's like, he's not going to tell him the right stuff. So we're just hoping everything's all right. But I mean, there could be some fractures there. He's probably going to definitely have to have some surgeries and things. But I mean, everything was so dislocated so badly, they had to completely put him under to pop everything back in because it would just be too excruciating. Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
God love him. We'll keep him in our prayers for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, but everything seems to be stable now. So it was a fun weekend.
Golly, man, that's something.
What a depressing note, huh?
Yeah, really.
No, in all seriousness, depressing is the wrong word, man. That's scary.
Yeah.
You see that, Scala? I don't know anything about a wrench. I don't know how to give anyone a wrench.
You are the living spanner in the works.
Go to the YouTube. Are you on YouTube or no? Do you have your YouTube?
I'm not in the YouTube. I can go on into the YouTube for sure.
Where is this podcasting now? On Facebook? Where are we? Are we live?
YouTube. No,
you're live on YouTube and Facebook.
Okay.
We thought I'd do it because of the people because we have a lot of friends like
Am I tagged or JC and I tagged so that it shows up on our page?
Yeah, Billy Tucci, Stephen Peros, and Nile Scala being so
okay.
All right, let me tag you. Hang on. Let me edit the post. Oh,
goodness sake.
Crazy. Good God.
Dominic Falcone says, Steve.
Oh, the rest of us don't read.
Back at him.
Well, the thing is, so what's funny is StreamYard's really good at multi-streaming, right? But when you have your chat, like you guys see the chat, right, on your computers, it doesn't migrate Facebook chat in there.
Yeah, isn't that goofy?
Yeah.
It should incorporate both.
It should. In the future, it will. But like on our end, it says can't.
Like the far future.
Some destinations.
Like Buck Rogers time.
Definitely Buck
Thank
Rogers
you, TJ. I don't know if TJ James is still on, but thank you. Yes, I am in fact a People's Court victor. Excellent. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know you were doing that till after the fact. What the heck, man?
Yeah. Can you talk about that, Steve?
I mean, and how does that apply to she?
Well, really better watch out for me. That's all I have to say. No. I didn't talk much about it because, as a screenwriter and a TV writer, you don't want to go and advertise that you're suing a producer. Also, as someone who very much knows the ins and outs of how TV and film is produced, you don't know what the first time I was going to see the finished product and whether or not I mean, I knew that I had won already, but you don't know how you're going to look, how it's all put together until you actually watch it on broadcast. So only, you know, people close to me. I told Billy about it back in November when I did it, or October, whenever it was. But no, I didn't like post on Facebook, hey, it's gonna be on, everybody tune in. And then I just started hearing and I watched it. I went, oh, okay. I looked all right. That worked out. I don't mean look. I mean that I came across all right. They didn't like have weird shots of me doing stupid things that were embarrassing. So and it basically, they cut it together in a way that even I would have cut it together exactly that way. So I was pleased how it went. So now I don't mind when people tell me they saw it, or I'll let people know, you know, how to see. But yeah, it was a kick. It was basically working for someone who stiffed me. And private party, which is always an issue when you work with somebody who is not affiliated with, you know, a production company or a studio or a network. She really didn't understand. She really was. She was a total amateur pretending to be a pro, which is always dangerous. And I said, no, you can't not pay me. That doesn't actually work that way. So, you know, she didn't think I was going to do anything. The way People's Court works is that, you know, I basically was filing in small claims court. And next thing I knew, I got a phone call from Connecticut saying, hi, I'm one of the producers of the People's Court. Apparently People's Court, it's been around since the 1980s. They have arrangements and friends who, you know, basically people are probably in all 50 states who cull through, whose job it is, because it's all public records when you sue somebody.
As soon as you file.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as soon as you file. So they said, hi, we've gotten a hold of your lawsuit, and we'd be really interested in doing it. And I said, and I couldn't figure out what the incentive was for the other party to say yes. And she said, well, the good news is, you know, I don't know if you know it or not, but people who sue in small claims court, you know, very low percentage actually collect, because even if the judge pounds the gavel and says, Steve, we decide in your favor, there isn't some bailiff, you know, saying, hey, to the defendant, you can't leave this court unless you pay this guy. Everybody just leaves. And now it's my job to chase that person for the award. And so she says, the good news is if you win in the People's Court, we pay you. So in 10 days after you're done here, we pay you. That's your incentive. And the defendant's incentive is if they lose, it doesn't come out of their pocket. It comes out of the network's, you know, the production company's pocket. So
wow, okay.
I said, if she says yes, I'll get on a plane to Connecticut on your dime and spend a night at a hotel on your dime and go do the show. And sure enough, she said yes. And as I had hoped, if she wasn't going to pay in cash, I wanted her to pay in something else. And she did, which is to the person. Everybody who told me they saw it said, she was horrible, a horrible person, and an idiot. I was like, yes, exactly. And that's what I wanted. I said, she's not going to pay cash. I want her to be shown up for who she was so that no other writers have this happen to them. And that you know, she's exposed, because it was just terrible how she treated me and the craft of the screenwriter. Mm-hmm. So it was fun. It was not on my bucket list, but apparently I've been on the People's Court, which I guess I got to create a bucket list, put People's Court on, and then with a red pen across it.
It's much like Victor McLaglen in Quiet Man. Put his name down. Now strike a line through it.
Strike a line through it. And I just watched that on St. Patty's Day and introduced my wonderful girlfriend to it. So yeah,
I love that line, and it's one I use all the time when somebody
put him in the book. Put him in the book.
Put his name down. I'll strike a line through it.
Wait! You went to Connecticut for this?
Oh yeah, he was right here.
You didn't even come and we didn't go grab a drink. I mean, what the? Were you in Stamford?
You know, I was in Stamford. How close are you to Stamford? Or close to Stamford, not exactly Stamford, but close.
Probably about like 45 minutes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So in Los Angeles, where Steve lives, people would complain about going that far to see a friend, despite their friend flying across the country.
I'm just.
But for the rest of us, we would drive that.
What is it, Steve? You know, like I call someone, except for Keith, who's the only one, and some of my other friends, like, are you kidding me? That's all the way over the hill.
Yeah.
You're on the side of the hill. I'm like, what hill? It says the GPS says you're 6 miles away.
My buddy lived sort of just very close to where you live, Steve, for years. And my brother was out there on business from Florida, and he was bitching to my brother about driving like for 20 minutes to come see him. And it's just a Los Angeles thing. But I gotta say, my favorite People's Court was, Judge Wapner, of course, the one we grew up with. But my favorite variation of that was the episode of Sliders, where they go to a Soviet-dominated America with its Commissar Wapner. I just love that one. I think it's like the second or third episode of the series.
Really? I don't remember that. I had to have seen it.
Brian Blevins asks, when they introduced me, did they say that Steve Peros is from Hollywood and the writer of Stoker and Wells?
That's a great question.
Did they, Billy? Did you?
No. When they, not me. I didn't.
They.
People's Court. Oh, you mean on the People's Court? No. Here's the deal on the People's Court. Is that I used just my first name, as did she. Because I don't want, if people are considering working with me, TV writer, to search my name and the first thing that comes up is me suing a producer on People's Court. No. So it was just Steve, Steve, Hollywood screenwriter. He's got an axe to grind. It's like.
Did you guys
hatchet in his back pocket.
Did you guys share the same hotel? Like, you were in both of the same hotel.
No, they have worked with that. This is fascinating.
Spark was a little bit of a love affair, maybe.
No. Here's how it worked. No, you clearly have not watched this episode to know that there was no love affair. This is the way it works. They've done this for so long and probably had their share of issues that not only we were flown on separate flights, had separate drivers and separate hotels. The building, is, if you were looking overhead at this building where it is, I get dropped off on one side through a door that says plaintiff. She gets dropped off at another door that says defendant. They have people on walkie-talkies making sure we never cross paths.
Wow.
And I'm going to the restroom, and that's the biggest deal. We got number 3, meaning because I guess there are like 5 cases that day, and so you're just identified as the number. We got the defendant in number 3. He's going to the men's room, trying to make sure plaintiff number 3 is not, and so that we could not. The first time we cross paths are when we, and not even before the show. I'm standing there ready to go on. She's somewhere else. I didn't see her because obviously the plaintiff's the first one through the door. And the first time I saw her was when she came in and stood at her podium, and I decided I chose that I was never even going to look at her or acknowledge her presence. And
was she trying to catch you with the eye? Were you giving the old?
Well, it was fun watching her throughout because I knew that the judge was on my side very early. As soon as she came out, I could tell that she had it out for her. And I watched on TV. I got to see that her the defendant's body language kept. If you had to watch it in time lapse, she went from this at the beginning to this by the end. She was just like shriveled because she just got so beaten down by the end by this judge who just read her the riot act from beginning to end.
I'm melting.
Yeah.
She's crazy about the People's Court.
But yeah, so I couldn't really promote Stoker and Wells or talk about my career as much as it would have been nice to do. They probably would have cut it out anyway because they weren't gonna. Yeah, they wouldn't let me go and make it a free commercial unless it was a big Stoker Wells T-shirt, I guess.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, they've got their format. Everything is given a certain amount of time. That's not unusual at all. But it is a great question from Brian anyway.
Yes, it is. And when did you? So, what was her excuse for not paying you for working?
Oh, well, here it is. She is one. Here's the thing. She's somebody who, if you looked her up on IMDb, you think, oh, she's a co-producer or an executive producer on 3 or 4 movies. They seem to have. They're like direct to Redbox, direct to movies, but with Nick Cage or with John Cusack. And when you actually watch them, you see, oh, these are movies that have 17 executive producers. 10 of them are buried in the tail credits. So these are people sort of bought a credit. But instead of acknowledging her instead of acknowledging her limitations and that she wanted to learn from people, very much I like to think as I was on working on Stoker and Wells, having never written a graphic novel, I admitted I was the dumbest person in the room and wanted to learn from a guy like this guy over here and this guy up there. She wouldn't. She kept saying she's an experienced producer. And so it really became a thing of she did not quite understand this term of commencement and delivery fees. And in the world of professional writers, you are paid half to begin writing, and you are paid half upon delivery, not upon approval or liking it. On the word is called delivery. And so anybody who's ever been a professional would know that. But I've never heard of paying for something before I get it. I'm like, well, then you're not a professional producer. All right, fine, I'll pay you the commencement fee. So she paid the commencement fee. I turned it in. I turned in a script so far superior. It was a page 1 rewrite, so far superior to the script that she gave me. And I think the big elephant in the room is that she actually liked the awful script and was pressured to have it rewritten. So everybody in her circle,
wow.
oh my God,
Wow.
Steve did such a great job. And she was like, what happened to this? What happened to that? I'm not going to pay it and after this, and I want my money back. I'm like, that's not how it works. You owe me money. No, I don't.
Oh my.
And so the judge said, because I presented all these emails, because just when I was about to turn it in, I was nervous because the contract hadn't been signed with her actual money person, the executive producer. And I said, I wrote an email and I said, I'm about to turn it in, but I need to know, since the agreement hasn't been signed, that you personally are agreeing to pay the delivery fee once I turn it in. Because I never have turned in something without a signed contract. I just need to know by responding to this email in writing that you are personally responsible for the delivery fee. She wrote, yes, I am. And that's all the judge kept pointing up in front of her. You said you were going to pay him the money. And she would just talk in circles and double talk and double back. So finally at the end, the judge said, award for the plaintiff. What are you, crazy? So she owed me the money and she just didn't understand the industry. And it was, to one extent, I totally was anticipating, well, if it doesn't work out, because a lot of times you deal with private individuals who say they have the money all lined up for a film that doesn't work out. I thought, well, the amount I'm getting paid to do this rewrite, because I was going to direct this film too. The amount I'm getting paid for the rewrite is enough. And I wanted to write a real funny, laugh out loud comedy. It's sort of like Mel Brooks doing The Princess Bride or something, a fairy tale thing, kingdoms and stuff, but a Mel Brooks kind of tone, or Monty Python. So that was fun to write. I enjoyed it. And I thought, if the film never happens, at least I've made this much. Who knew that I couldn't count on her actually paying the second half of the money she owed me? So she did, or either the court did. And I, sure enough, 10 days later, boom, in my mailbox, there's the check. So
well, now
it was all
a great lesson to that for creators out there and other writers is that any agreements made via email stand as a binding contract in a court of law.
Absolutely, folks. Or even if you go into a meeting and things happen verbally and you think, oh, shoot, I wish I had that in writing. Always write those emails back saying it was such a pleasure meeting with you. And thank you so much for agreeing to blah, 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 blah.
I will do this and you'll do this. Yeah, absolutely, Steve.
Even if they don't respond, the fact that you sent that email and got no response, including what I never said that, does matter. So follow up everything with, as they say, a CYA email, cover your ass email. And part of what I have learned, what I continue to learn, is that when I deal with private parties, I have to tell them I'm sorry, but either it has to go into escrow or the fee that we negotiated, I need it all up front. I need a commencement. And you have the ability to read my work and decide, the quality of my work. I'm already agreeing, I'm doing some rewrites. I'm not going to, and including the case of this woman. That's what the judge said. He offered to sit down with you and go over notes. Why on earth didn't you take him up on it? And again, she had no answer. She would just talk about something else. She's just nuts. So
there's two things here. Niall's point is dead on, which is that writers need to think this way. And two, Steve, you refer to it as CYA, but in truth, when you're not dealing with a crazy person, it's just establishing the right terms, that everybody is on the same page.
Yep. No, absolutely. Nile, we got a question from Brian there. That's something good for me and Billy, and actually JC, all of us really.
Yeah, Steve, how do you decide how much page space is too much for a fight scene or action scene? Like panels and pages are real estate in a book, and you don't want it to be boring, but it's too much. But it's too much a reality.
It's interesting with my two different things are going on with these two books, and I'll let Billy and JC weigh in on this from their even greater experience than I have. But I will say from my experience, I was adapting with Stoker and Wells, which has action scenes. I was adapting from a screenplay that I wanted to make sure I told the whole story. So JC helped me really, really cut it down. It was a feature-length motion picture. We wound up doing it in a 4-page book.
94.
94-page book, which we thought was going to be 57. Silly us. But I started to understand. But we had a lot on pages, and we did have some splashes. We made sure the action scenes popped. So it's fun now working with Billy, writing something we're not adapting a longer piece. So I'm understanding the rhythms of the page, and Billy will see something come back at me that's a full page this or half a page that. And because I do know we need to give the room for the art, and this isn't just about talking heads. And even in the talking heads scenes, I'm trying to think about, we're talking about a memory or a flashback of a battle. Let's show that image in that moment. It's got the funny, real estate is a term we use in television as well, which is when you're writing a half-hour pilot or a 1-hour pilot, we all know features can be 80 minutes or 180 minutes, but television is a finite length, and networks consider that valuable real estate. And you can't be wasting time or doing what they call story stalls, where the story's not moving forward, folks. Got to keep it moving forward, or people have a lot of temptations to switch it off or to switch to something else. So I think Billy and JC have been a good a sounding board for my script, the script that Billy and I are working on, and whether or not I'm doing a good balancing act. But Billy, how are you feeling about that part?
I feel just write it.
Mm-hmm.
Just write it. We had Eric Larson on. Was it last week? And he gave a great lesson on how to write an action scene. Mm-hmm. And it was a really great lesson, and a lot of that was find out what's the motivations, what's the result of this, why are they fighting, and pretty much it's you judging of how long it should be.
Yeah, I think one of the things about this is if you accept that writing is rewriting. Eric's advice is really well taken. The caveat I would put on that is if you're doing that as a scene within the context of a graphic novel or a particular issue, you have to look at what percentage of this are you eating up with this big action scene. If you're describing every punch landing and all this kind of stuff like that, and then your rest of your story is reduced to 16 panel pages, where everything's a short up talking head, and you've got all this dialogue trying to fit in because you've done that. And you really do have to balance that stuff. There's nothing that disagrees with what Eric said, which is you have to know the motivation. You have to know where are you starting, where are you finishing, and everything that happens in between. But then you're making the decision, and that's where you're being the writer, is deciding what you're going to show. What's the important stuff compared to how many pages total that you have. If you're talking, it's a fight scene that lasts the whole issue, well, that's a great novelty, but how many fight scenes are really worth that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And how long it is, because again, you could have these great, epic battles, but don't over, how much can you see people fighting each other? I mean, I guess a big city thing would be fun of them destroying an entire city, which
sure, you've got that kind of thing. And I think if you want to use a film example, one of the greatest car chases ever, French Connection, is a big chunk of the film, but in truth, it's not the bulk of the film, right? It's a key big component, but it's not the be all to end all.
Does that help, Ryan?
No. Well, it also has to carry along. It has to come from from character motivations and a dynamic in the storytelling that the audience cares about. Everybody who is sitting here has read a comic book, a graphic novel, seen an action movie that they were bored in. And even though on the screen and even though on the page is a lot of business happening, they're bored. They're bored because they're not connected emotionally. They're not connected by a narrative that's making them turn the pages because of a level of dramatic engagement. So you can be as busy as you want on a movie screen, as busy as you want, and as action filled as you want on a page. If someone's not emotionally invested and intellectually engaged, stimulated by the storytelling, it's just a whole lot of busyness.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything.
I think that's true. I think, I have a rule for prose fiction, but it goes for when I'm reading a graphic novel or a script or anything else. And it doesn't matter whether it's Fitzgerald or Hemingway or John Fonte or Tom Clancy or Nile Scala, Billy Tucci or Steve Peros or me. There's one rule. Do you want to turn the page? That's the test.
Yeah.
Do you want to turn the page? If you're sitting there and saying that the only reason to have a big fight scene is the cool factor, then you're probably wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. For sure.
Guys, Billy, a fan, Billy Tucci wants to know, Steve and JC, how do you feel about characters who are speaking, but they are drawn with their mouths closed?
I'm going to let me say this. Because I had this issue, because again, I'm the new guy in the room, and this is my second book with Billy, and my artist, who we all on this page know, the great Barry Orkin, who drew the pen ink for Stoker and Wells. We'd have a character speaking, and it would be. And I just couldn't figure out. I said, Barry, but speaking, don't you have to have the mouth open? Because, it's because sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't. And then I got to Billy, and Billy generally had a little bit, even if a character, so he had a little bit of, just a little something going on. Yeah. But then I saw his first page where Anna has a whole big thing she's saying, and she's like,
yeah,
I'm like
smiling. Yeah, she's
like, really, I don't understand. It says she's talking. I don't understand. I said, please tell me, because you guys are the ones who are used to the language. I'm getting used to the language. So if you tell me, oh no, it's totally acceptable to readers, then I'm like, but I'm not going to push it. So but that's interesting. JC and Nile, what do you guys think on that?
I can't have it's funny you're mentioning that, because I discovered a new book. It's basically called X, I believe. And I'm going through the pages. And I'm like, all the characters' mouths are shut. This is driving me nuts.
Yes.
It drove me nuts. There was one scene where a guy was kind of like, and like it's kind of drawn weird. It's a cool style, but it's different. But I'm like going through each one. I'm like, no one's mouths are open. This makes no sense.
I like
ventriloquists. JC, they were ventriloquists.
I agree when it's all one way or the other. I also there's a time where artists sort of depict a mild conversation and the guy looks like,
yeah, oh yeah,
yes, there's
an extreme opposite to it. Yeah,
yes, I'll have my tea now. And I really think that it's just like most other things. It's a balancing act. I don't think that there's a prescription for it, but I think that it's funny. I've used it where the guy with the open mouth was actually speechless.
No, that's good.
But I don't think that there's a hard and fast rule. But I think the visual aesthetic thinks that you ought to be mixing it up.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because one of the things that I did as the outsider come in and change for Stoker and Wells was I said to JC, I said,
speechless.
I said, why the heck aren't there page numbers on graphic novels, especially a 94-page book? Down. What page are you on? And I plus this is a tribute to H.G. Wells and Bram Stoker. These are novelists. They wrote books that had page numbers. And I said, I'm going to page numbers on this. Is that crazy? He says, no, go ahead. And I can't tell how many people are like, yes, I really love, and not to self-promote, I really love that there are page numbers at the bottom. This is so cool. I know where I am. But JC was very particular. It had to be centered. Said, no, it can't be flush margin left and right. It's got to be centered. So yes,
consider that page numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever put page numbers on any of my books.
You haven't. And it would be okay to do so. I also don't forget, most of yours have been generated as 32 pagers.
Yeah.
And that really, to me, has a lot of bearing on it. The reason I think it really works in graphic novel format is you got enough pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea though. I like that. I like
now.
it.
I will say, if you have the right designer, and certainly Marshall could have handled this for us. You know, I thought about it after the fact. If we had an artistic way with working with Barry and incorporating what was going to be left and right, we could have gone left, right, justified on the page numbers. They used to do that in older DC comics, particularly.
But you know, in terms of these are Victorian writers, I think actually the tradition made more sense. You know, to go middle of the page.
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely, and that may have been in all honesty, that was probably the driving force for my argument for why it was so easy to do it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to pay tribute to the novel part of the graphic novel to do it. You know, there are some books where the art goes, you know, there is no border, there is no white border. It makes it more difficult and so forth. Yeah, I think
that's why it fell away from that. Hey, Nile, TJ has a good question about the posters behind Steve.
Yes, that must have been. I'm not aware of the movie and the poster behind Steve. Kojak, Wider, Juice, Octopussy, and Dracula. How can you go wrong?
Yeah, no, this is quite a beautiful 1970s. This is everything you want to know about the 70s. You know, right here. You know, this is
great art.
Killer Force, directed by Val Guest, who was a great. He was towards the end of his career, British director. He done a lot of cool sci-fi stuff and dramas as well in the UK. But I mean, you got up on the top border there. You got Christopher Lee, Maud Adams, Peter Fonda, Hugh O'Brien, and O.J. Simpson. Now notice the selling point is Telly Savalas. People don't realize what a god this man was during the time.
I do. My God.
You say that because
he was
Greek.
an international movie sex symbol. I mean, he could, if he was going to be in a film. This was a U.S. film, but I mean, again, he was the selling point, not Peter Fonda, who you would think. Well, he must have been, even though Fonda's the star. I don't know if you notice, if you could see Christopher Lee's name is in the box. You know, I got to move. Well, let me move Claude Rains in The Invisible Man so you can see.
How come we can't see through Claude Rains?
Yes, that's true. We should be able to see through The Invisible Man, obviously, but it was not quite the case. But no, I saw this poster, and the art is just beautiful. And I just, you know, and I'm, as a fellow Greek, I have Telly Savalas there pointing a gun at me as I write. You know, behind me, I'm shilling my own book, because really, the real thing that's framed on my wall is what's behind it, a movie, The Cat's Meow, that I wrote. But I thought, you know what, I wanted people to see the book, our book, Stoker and Wells. This is my graphic novel, with the cover that is pen, ink, and colored by the great Barry Orkin. It's on
Barry Orkin as the great Barry Orkin since high school.
True.
That's
true. He is. He refuses to be ungreat, but I will shill it. We are on Comixology for those who like their books digital, and both digital and paperback on Amazon as well. So I hope you folks will check it out. I'm very proud of it. And it's part of what gave Billy a comfort level to work with me on Return of the Warrior, I'm happy to say. So
absolutely.
Okay, TJ has another question, but I want to answer Blevins first.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring that one up for you guys next. Utilizing older stories like Pride and Prejudice going zombies in Stoker and Wells, do you think there are still many older stories that can be comic twisted into weird variants, or is it played out?
Listen, I got one answer for that, and it's the same thing I get when people ask me if people are tired of superhero movies. Nobody is tired of it done well.
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Everybody's tired of it done poorly.
Yes.
That's the answer to everything.
Like that Avengers movie crap, huh?
Thank you.
Horrible.
Listen, I couldn't agree. I think you said it perfectly. And again, people with the Stoker and Wells, part of what I got when we were reviewed, and we reviewed very, very well and consistently, was
Stoker and Wells coffee mug.
There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Got a Stoker Wells coffee mug, which I just drank a cup of Joe before I went on here.
Billy's variant cover, Billy's wonderful variant cover. There it is, Brian. You got it. I got one too. I was going to go get it, but now that Billy showed it, that's all we need. So yes, we hope to get more of those out. Obviously, some things have taken a pause button in the further promotion of Stoker and Wells and getting it out there, but we will be continuing with the saga and getting. I was about to embark on a whole Southern California signing tour, and that all just stopped. With this. But as soon as that's lifted, that'll be back out, and we'll be starting to talk again about our second entry, book 2 of Stoker and Wells, The Ashes of Revenge. So definitely stay tuned for that.
TJ is asking how many volumes were planned. It's 3, correct?
Yeah, 3 for this initial story cycle. Mm-hmm. But we are, as has been introduced, a independently published book. Through thankfully the kindness of the Kickstarter pledge backers, so our promotion budget is slim. So if you've read it, if you like it, please spread the word in your social media, that you liked it, and encourage others to purchase it, because that's what keeps us going, and that's what helps us get our next book going. So thank you for continuing to ask about it, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Excellent.
Wonderful. So, Scala, how is Medico going?
It's going great, actually. I had a couple brainstorms today. Let's just say it involves orangutans.
You got to put orangutan on the cover, and I'm drawing it.
Dude, it's a really good concept I think I came up with. It actually involves his origin, which is great because, me, I always had a couple different origins for him.
Right.
And I'm loving this one now.
So I got a question. What are the odds the 2 separate conversations with Billy in one day involve orangutans?
Yeah,
really?
I told him I was going out to the store and I was wearing my M95 mask. And he says, "What kind of mask do you have?" And I said, "Dr. Zayas."
Yeah, no, you said I'd be wearing a mask. And I said, "Well, what kind of mask? Like a disguise or something?" And Jeff just said, "Dr. Zayas." Like just offhand. Went to the supermarket as Dr. Zayas. I could love it.
Awesome.
Come on, look how handy this is. Look handy
at that.
This is.
Exactly.
Help me, Dr. Zayas.
See, this is signs I'm in the right
Dr.
direction.
Zayas,
How do we know Dr. Zayas?
Zayas.
Stephen, I don't know if you...
Dr. Zayas.
Tell me, Taylor, if you're trying to protect others of your kind, it'll cost you your identity. I do know who you are, Taylor. I said to use brain surgery to extract it. God, take him out of here.
And scene.
Here.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
Stephen.
Yes.
Grade. Planet of the Apes television show was roaring. The Battle for Planet of the Apes movie, I believe, came out on television, the televised film.
Yes.
That Halloween, which I think was the last Halloween I wore a costume, one of the old Ben Cooper costumes, and the big costume that year was the Planet of the Apes. I guess you didn't dress as... See, I got a gorilla. I got Vito Carlucci, the gorilla. Dennis
I dressed as Nova. I was going through a funky phase. I had my little bra and panties on.
Do you have a Nova story?
I do have a Nova story. It's not a very exciting Nova story, but in fact, I have some visual aid. I can.
Mine is not exciting, but it is good.
I have a Nova story too.
Do you really?
Yes.
On here, this, which you cannot see, is Linda Harrison's signature, but you kind of see a little bit of it there.
Yeah, you can see a little bit.
Yeah. A friend of mine knew her, and apparently she's became a teacher or something, or she was at an art fair in New Jersey. I said, "Oh my God, I know somebody who's going to love this," and she got him to write. Because of my movie The Cat's Meow come out, so she wrote, "Steve, you're the Cat's Meow. Love, Linda Harrison." Wow. So I couldn't believe it, but it was, of course, whatever Sharpie she was using, whatever ink pen was the unfortunate kind of fades. but I cherish this. So yeah, that's my. I didn't get to meet Linda Harrison, but I got to hold something that her sainted hands held.
Billy, what about your story?
Well, I love her. I mean, she is a Billy Tucci girl. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course she is. She's scantily clad and mute.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, why did I ever get that then? Anyway,
you walked into that one with your chin, my friend.
I loved her. You know, Marilyn Monroe, like everybody else. But her and Audrey Hepburn, I just love that dark eyes, the long black hair. That's my type. And so Debbie and I were setting up at the Pittsburgh Comic-Con, the giant she banner I had. Remember I had that 15-foot high?
Oh, yeah. This would be about what?
Maybe 2002.
Yeah, maybe a smidge earlier. But yeah, sure. I remember that. I'm sure she was at
2000, maybe 2000. You know, I think definitely the Y2K era.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm setting it up, and I hear, "Oh my God, that is so beautiful!" And I turn, and there's Linda Harrison. She was a guest.
And she was still
stunning. And I'm like, "Oh my God!" I said, and so I climbed down the little step ladder I had, or whatever I was doing, and I said, "You are still one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life." She's like, "Oh, thank you." And Debbie's like, "You are gorgeous," you know. And I'm like, "She was Nova in Planet of the Apes," and it was fun. She was so sweet, and that was it.
Year before that Pittsburgh con, Mark Haynes, Jim Kohoric, and I, and Kevin Topham, Ostrich, we're at a Battlestar Galactica convention in Fort Washington, PA, and Fort Washington, PA. Yes, a fort.
Fort Wayne.
Sorry. And, you know, Billy,
he's having a stroke.
Sorry,
but she was one of the celebrity guests, even though it wasn't Battlestar Galactica. Mark Goddard was there too, and I got a good story about him too. But from the very beginning, that when we got there, they had promised us 6,000 people. I think there were 600.
Aww.
And the shuttle did not show up to pick up the guests and bring them over to the facility. And so Mark and I ended up giving her a ride over to the show. And yeah, I jumped in the back of the car and said, "Hey, you take the front seat," all that. And she was very, very sweet, very nice, and as totally elegant as she was when we saw her in Pittsburgh. And she gets out of the car, and I looked at Mark and said, "No, the kids will learn to talk." Because, man, good golly.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Stunning.
And you know, the whole thing about it was elegant. That was the amazing thing.
Nice.
Yeah, what a lady. I mean, just stunning.
Yeah.
Stephen, Earth Citizen 09. Steve, did you see Roger Corman's movie adaptation of Stoker's Burial of the Rats? And if so, did you like Corman's B-movie's take on it?
Well, I didn't see it, but I believe that by the time that was happening, I don't think there was a Corman. That was probably Corman in terms of studio and producer. I don't think he was directing at that point. He was directing very infrequently, and then didn't direct at all until he did the Frankenstein Unbound in the early 90s, something like that, the early 90s. But no, I did not see it, so I don't really have anything to comment on. I did. Happy to say that is a bucket list thing. I did get to meet Roger Corman and chat with him at one point, but no, I did not. I don't know about that adaptation.
Steve, have you ever worked on any B sci-fi type films, Roger Corman-esque films? Maybe, you know.
Well, no, not sci-fi. I did do, you know, I did in '93. My first credit out of NYU was a film that I co-wrote. 90s Columbia TriStar Sony direct to VHS neo-noir called Murdered Innocence with Jason Miller, who was the priest in The Exorcist, and But that is, it's just like I introduced all these crazy Rashomon-like story elements to it. And it was ultimately the first film directed by Frank Karachi, who went on to direct The Wedding Singer, Waterboy, Click, a whole bunch of movies, Zookeeper with Kevin James. So because we were friends back at NYU. So in terms of like me doing a real B movie, quote unquote, that's sort of it. I've not delved into. I directed a ghost story called The Undying, starring Anthony Carrigan, who was just nominated for an Emmy for Barry, the HBO. He's the shaved head guy on Barry.
Yeah.
He was, and he suffers. He not suffers. He doesn't suffer at all, actually. Alopecia. So when I knew him, he didn't. His alopecia was pretty clandestine. So he had a head of hair and so forth. But he's the lead. Robin Weigert, who was nominated for an Emmy for Deadwood, is also in it, and the Great West Studio, who just won an honorary Oscar.
Oh, he did. Oh,
I didn't know. Yeah, this past year he won an honorary Oscar from the Academy. So they are in a ghost story I did called The Undying, which I would like to have actually, in a weird way, been more of a B movie. I wanted to lean more into horror, but my producer, co-writer, who was also an executive producer and raised the money for me to direct the film, he wanted to fall more into the romantic thriller category than horror category. It still qualifies and was reviewed by those who review horror movies and ghost stories, and I'm proud of it. But it's not as B as I think you're implying, Billy.
Have you?
Billy cut and gave me some very good notes, I must say. Thank you, Billy.
Not as good as notes as Stephen Orkin.
Brian Blevins just sent us a little gift.
What did he send?
Over here. Let me share this with you. From good old Blevins.
Hope this won't embarrass any of us. Because is this that strange picture of J.C. Vaughn at 3 a.m. that we all talk about?
I hope not.
That would look approximately just like this. With a little less lighting.
That's right.
Is this coming, Scala?
Niall looks like he froze.
I think Niall has dial-up internet.
So, gentlemen, a quick question. You wrote this script. The woman didn't pay you for the script. You were paid for by...
We're back to the People's Court?
Yeah, well, I wanted to get back to that. You got paid by the People's Court.
Indeed, sir.
Right. Who owns that screenplay?
Oh, it's in the same place it would be no matter what. Oh my God,
this is confusing.
Blevins sent me a trickery. It was a trickery.
I saw that in an episode of Star Trek. Didn't they get split into two or something?
Yes.
So no, but she would not be able to use it because part of the deal was that I would get the final amount of money at the time when they were rolling cameras like a month before official pre-production, a month before principal photography. So no, she can do nothing with it. I guess technically I can only really do stuff with it that has zero relation to the script I was adapting, but I'm not thinking much of it. The greatest reward I had was when Judge Millan looked at her and said, "Your script was awful. Steve's was so much better." That to me was worth the flight. It was worth everything.
There's also that great thing, and you alluded to it earlier, but didn't say it specifically. There's nothing like allowing a person to tell everybody else who he or she is, and that's what that lady was doing on the People's Court. Yeah,
she has a lot of yes people around her who I think were letting her think she knew what she was doing. I think she needed to be shown that she didn't, and I was shocked that Judge Millan actually read the drafts. I didn't think she was going to. I only submitted them as evidence in case they came up, meaning in case the producer said, and Steve's script was amateurish and not even properly formatted. I want to be able to show it. And if the judge had asked me, "You keep saying his script, the other writer's script was not funny or amateurishly written. Can you show us?" So I had certain pages in mind to reference. Well, she came out and said, "I read both scripts." I went, "Oh, I've won this."
Yeah. Nice. That's great.
And she said, "I didn't even have to." And that was just, and I just knew the way she started talking to her, she just had it out for this producer as soon as she stepped up. So if you watch me, I'm just kind of quiet, trying to contain an obnoxious shit-eating grin the whole time, because I just like, I don't have to do anything to win this. Just speak when spoken to, and I will win. And that's what basically happened. So.
That's really cool. Hey, I've got a question for you, Steve. Since you've known she for most of the character's existence, but this is your first time writing it, delving into the history and getting the grasp on the character, and then writing and with Billy and coming up with really great plot contributions and good twists and things like that, and solid beats. What reached out to you about the character? What do you think is cool about it?
Well, what's cool about it is writing it. The thing I grasped most was writing characters who have gone through a journey in that time close to the age journey that Billy and I have gone to. Not to out teen sensation Billy Tucci, but it's really fun to that's really what I really got to. I could get what Arashi has gone through. You can always find metaphors and parallels to your own life. Like, he's in prison, I'm not in prison, but I know what it's like to pursue something and have to change that pursuit and to rethink things in your life and having contemplative time. And Arashi's gone through a lot, so you're able to really identify with that. You have, Anna was young and now she's got a teenage daughter. I don't, but I've been on the front lines with many a friend who does. And so it's really being able to see what Billy had and see his brilliant, and I'm not just saying this because Billy's a friend, but because I really think it was a very bold idea, and it's paying off in the book, how the book's coming out. Billy didn't just say, well, I'm just going to do she and Arashi as if 15 years haven't passed. And we've made a really cool, exciting story because they've lived their lives those 15 years.
Yeah, I can tell you that what you guys are doing is so exciting that I called Billy the other day and started talking about Junen, which is the last She story before this one that's been published. And I said, we have to do an epilogue to that sets this up. It'll be a prequel. It'll be a prequel because what you guys are doing is so freaking brilliant. And I feel like I'm really lucky that I get to flit back and forth rather, from being a professional, being a fan, because I still remember when I saw She #1 on the stands, and saw that cover three aisles away at the top of the first rack row at Heroes in suburban Fort Worth, and I went over and got it, and I was like, and I loved this like immediately. And Billy, what month did that come out?
March. Came out March.
How many issues did you have out by that, San Diego?
Oh, what, issue 1?
You had one out, and then how many by San Diego that year, which was August, I believe.
August. Let's see. Came out in March, and then I solicited number 2 for June.
Okay.
So number 2 had come out, and number 3 had yet to come out.
All right.
So we had number 2 out October. Yeah, no, wait. Number 2 was because they were bi-monthly then. So number 2 was June, and then number 3 was going to be August. So number 3 was almost out, but it wasn't out for San Diego.
Right.
I didn't have a new book for San Diego Comic-Con, which I think was it in July that month or what?
July or early August, I think, in those days.
I thought it was late July for some reason, because I remember I was home for my birthday.
All right.
After it.
At any rate, regardless of when it was, you had the posters.
Yes.
That's what I got from you when I
poster back there.
Yeah.
There were 2,000 of them made, and we signed and numbered all of them.
Yeah, I got one from you. I got one from you that show. That was when I met you.
Crazy, that show. That was a crazy show. Steven, I reached out to my friend Paul Jenkins. I was on his little YouTube stream. We have a show, and we're going to talk about our shows because now we have a great show tomorrow. And then we have a show on Wednesday.
Correct.
But I would like to come back on Thursday, and I don't know what your schedule is like, Steve, but I'd love to do, and we could save this for next week if you'd like, but I want to do Hollywood horror stories, adventures in Hollywood, because when we had Matt Wagner on last week. Matt was on, right? No,
Matt Wagner. Yep, Matt Wagner.
Matt Wagner.
And he would love to come back on again.
and he spent the whole day with Tarantino. So I'd love to get people together and just tell, because you've been on some of my Hollywood adventures, Steve.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think we've had that would be a great show.
Oh sure, I'm down for that. Yeah. And let me see. Let me think. What am I doing? Where am I going? That's a good question, but nowhere.
But I think we call it Adventures in Hollywood. You know, or Hollywood horror / Hollywood horror stories or something. And a couple of the other guys who have gone through these meetings, Hollywood meetings, and just some of the things you hear, and just things we see and cannot be unseen, like the guy in the restaurant. Remember that one?
What, the guy with the sandwich?
No, the guy with Julie Newmar's husband, not Julie Newmar, Julie Newman's husband. You and I and Keith went to the restaurant.
Oh yeah.
Or lack thereof. Anyway,
he's got a Fran Drescher story. Oh, we got a lot of stuff going on here.
Oh, nice.
But we've got to do that. Nile,
nanny.
What?
My favorite nanny.
Yeah, I was enraged. Remember, Steve?
Yeah.
I was so beside myself.
David, no spoilers. Let's save that for the show.
But let's do that, and we could do it on Crowdfunding Comics. Nile, I don't know how you are for Thursday, or we could do it on the Billy Tucci show. But I think
I'm
good on Thursday. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I'm gonna take off now though, because I am gonna go work on Medico. Yes.
All right.
So you guys enjoy the rest of your stream. We'll be back tomorrow on the Crowdfunding Comics channel doing a little Crowdfunding Comics review. Yeah.
So what we're gonna do tomorrow, everyone? Nile, just give us.
I think this is exciting.
Tomorrow it's going to be the first of our weekly shows and our live shows. We're going to stop doing live shows.
Well, no, we're not going to stop doing.
We're not going to stop doing live shows, but we're going to have our interviews. You want to explain it, Nile?
Yeah. So what we're going to do is, because we're growing the channel, right? There's algorithms involved, so we're going to play with the algorithm. We're going to try some things, but most of our interviews moving forward are going to be recorded and then uploaded. Because that is kind of a thing with YouTube. When you go live and stuff, it's very hard to grow a channel. They don't share your videos as often. So we made the executive decision to do most of our interviews recorded, unless we're talking huge names. If we're talking huge names on the show, then we'll open that up to our audience and our fans and things like that.
Yeah.
But then we'll always do, we'll still have live shows during the week, but we're going to cut it down. So it's going to be like a 50-50.
And the live shows are going to really be focused on crowdfunding.
We're scrutinizing everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So this Wednesday is a live show, one of our last live shows, because we just do have so many guests, but it's going to be Dan Fraga and Ethan Van Sciver talking about how they feel what the comics industry should do. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope everybody joins us for that. And they're both two great guys, great entertaining guests. They've got a lot to say. And then tomorrow, though, will be the first of our weekly This Week in Crowdfunding Comics. And crowdfunding is going to be small. So it's going to be like This Week in Comics. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about everything from news to rumors to even box office returns, Peros. So we're going to do the week.
It's not movies. It's not movies.
That's going to be
Crowdfunding Comics box office returns.
Oh, interesting.
So we're going to see how campaigns are doing.
Yeah, that's something.
Oh my gosh, this campaign is done. In 3 weeks, it's already up to $100,000. This campaign
that would be fascinating to watch, because I was going to be a part of aiding and assisting on a crowdfunding for a theatrical production, and we put the whole thing on a screeching hold until we come out the other side of this. We had there were certain reasons and concerns that people would be concerned about disposable income.
Yeah.
Also, it would give friends and friends, relatives more of a reason to feel like let me just put in this much, and I'm sure you'll understand, which is legitimate. So we just decided to put the whole thing on hold. But I'm interested to know. I actually haven't followed how things are in fact doing at at Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
Certain stuff's huge, and other stuff it's predictably slow.
Yeah, some stuff's slow, and some stuff that isn't huge, which should be huge. There's just so much different things out there, and I think when you look at Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's a very interesting.
The terrain is different.
It's different. It's very different, but I won't give it away. I won't say the name, but one of them is you know, very narrow. Very narrow. So it'll be fun to talk about tomorrow night.
That you guys are going to have a really good show with that. I want to Heroinberg has a great
with the
yeah, I was just going to say that. Peter Blackman
has a great one. And now, see, Steve, you're much more reasonable than me. I wanted to talk about the sound effect Fragaboom. That's Dan Fraga's trademark. Billy, do you remember him just like yelling that at shows, like even particularly the Pittsburgh con?
Oh, well, I yell at him when I'm like,
yeah, Fragaboom.
So I
actually use that as a sound effect in my online strip, The Flight, when the North Korean leader Kim Jong Elvis crashes into the ground of the planet Haven.
All right, well, gentlemen, have yourselves a great night. Billy,
Niall,
I'll maybe call tomorrow so we can talk about our show.
Hold on. Heroinberg also said, let us bid a fond farewell. 94 years old, Honor Blackman.
Look at that.
You know, also from the original The Avengers, the one that a lot of people think is the only Avengers.
Predating Emma Peel.
Yes, predating Emma Peel. She was the first. She wasn't Emma Peel. I forget about her character's name, but 94 years young, just passed away.
Very elegant.
They're all leaving, Steve. They're all leaving.
Well, at 94, you got to go. I mean, come on. It's time.
Well, here's the funny thing. If I could talk about, I don't know if I said this live, but I talked to my mother about the whole coronavirus thing. And Steve, you know my mother. You know my mother. I don't know if Niall's met my mother yet, but my mother.
I have not.
Probably. That's okay.
Well, have a good night, guys.
All right.
Niall, get out of here. Bye,
you guys enjoy the stream.
Thank you.
So my mother's had a pretty tough life, you know. I mean, and she's a tough lady. She's about 5'9", and she talks like this, you know, Billy. So what my mother was telling me, I'm like, so Ma, how you do with the whole coronavirus thing and everything? And she's like, you know, and my mother's 81. So she's like, you know, Billy, these old people, let me tell you, they don't understand. You have to, you know, you got to take care of yourself. You can only go to the store when you're supposed to wear them. And she goes, but you know, here's another thing, Billy. March, all the Italians, and my mother's Sicilian, all the Italians say every March is when Italy clears all the old people out. All the old people die in March. This is my mother saying. And I'm like, Mom, but it's young people. It's like, no, it's mostly old. But Billy, you understand, March, all the old people stay inside and then you don't see them anymore because March is the time that kills them. It's an old Italian thing. And they just feel that March, I guess, from February, winters, everybody's inside, then spring comes. The old saying is all the old people die in March. And thank you for past March. I'm like, well,
your mom will defy the odds.
I made it. So.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, Bill, yeah, I'm excited about that idea of a film program, and also to keep people abreast of the progress of Return of the Warrior.
Yes.
And JC, thank you for all of your assistance on it, and obviously, and your friendship and your assistance on Stoker and Wells as well.
I think it's an exciting time to see you guys working together. I think that there's a lot of stuff that comics. I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago. You both guys know that. I believe the comics we're going to go through this difficulty. I don't see smooth sailing, but I think we are in the end going to come back stronger. I think I think that Billy getting active and having She come back, and honestly, the weird thing is almost the timing couldn't be better. This book this one's already funded. When people see this, they're going to line up to fund the next one. And I think that they're going to be very excited by the story direction, by the story itself, by the art, and by the overall setup of here's these characters all these years later that they grew up too.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fundamental thing. And the great part about this as writers, we know that doesn't mean we can't go back and revisit what happened in between.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, a thing with me is if you both you guys know, if the people know, how many panels did I redraw this week?
Yeah, the great.
It's the first time anyone's going to see She, right? For a long, in a long time. It's the first time. And some people,
other than on say Overstreet covers.
Right. Yes. Thank you. You know, so I'm like, that doesn't work. That doesn't look right. Let's fix that. So
No, your attention to making sure that you're working very well with Ricardo, your artist. You're doing some panels, some roughs, more detailed than others, and you guys have you and Ricardo have a great back and forth for you to come in, because in the end your name is on this book. This character has been associated with you since the very first book came out, called Billy Tucci's She. So we've got to keep it true, and you will only regret it if you ever look at page 14, 22, whatever it is, and go, oh, why did I let that go to print when I knew it could just. So you're actually just stepping in and saying,
which is
a
thing that comes with age, because there's stuff that Billy looks at now and that would never have passed muster now that did back then, because just like everybody else, you're growing, you're having experiences, your chops are getting better. And we were talking about Way of the Warrior, and he says, I can't believe this. And I don't remember what page you were talking about. And I was just like, Billy, it was great at the time. If it didn't represent your best at the time, that's a different story, but it did.
Yeah.
And I think somehow maybe it's how that we grew up together. We have a lot of the same reference points. All I will have to do is, when Billy sends me a page, or I look at a page of Ricardo's or something, I go, oh, this is great. Like, what do you think? Panel 3. He goes, yeah, I know, you're right. It's like it was in his head. He just needed one person to poke it, and he's like, yep, okay, now I know.
Yeah, I'm not great. And it's funny. I haven't known him as long as you, but I know exactly what you're talking about when you say something like that. And the funny thing is, as an editor on a creator-owned project, there's a bit of diplomacy that's different than when it's your company's project and you're the boss. And so I'll spend about 2 seconds trying to be polite. And then I go, what are you doing here? But honestly, there's so little of that in this, that because you guys, like I said, you guys are really self-editing, and I really feel like I'm just playing, for the most part, continuity cop and the occasional sounding board, because you guys are really driving each other, and it's exciting to watch and inspirational. And I also think that the one thing about it is, for me, Steve, is that this is going to, comic-wise, introduce you to a lot more comic book fans, and I hope that bodes well for the future of Stoker and Wells too, because I'm feeling it already. When I was down at I don't think it was Long Beach. I was down at Long Beach, and doing signing for Stoker and Wells, and Billy had some of the was able to send me some of the ash cans, so it helped legitimize me and get people to come over and look more closely at Stoker and Wells when they saw that I was involved with She Return of the Warrior. So, and also some of these signings coming up when we come out the other side of the social distancing, and there are signings again. I know part of what's exciting to people is not only the wonderful reviews we got and endorsements that we got for Stoker and Wells, but that I'm also working on the Return of the Warrior with Billy on She. So I thank Billy for this really cool opportunity, and it's been a lot of fun to write it, because it's turned into this really cool. Not that the book already wasn't this great kind of neo-noir drama, but now a crime fusion, but this story has really brought out a lot of those great tropes of crime stories: the bitter prison inmate, the escapes, the insane asylum denizens, and the doctors who try to take care of them, and Anna trying to negotiate all of this darkness around her, and it all fits in the existing storyline without a blemish. I mean, it's not forced in. It's so organic. It does that. I want to ask both you guys, because I know that Hotaru is the next story. Creatively, are you guys just going to roll out of this one and go straight into working on that?
So, straight through. Yep. Yeah, no, we going to get it way ahead. The good news is, I guess, if there is a silver lining with all the printers being shut down, and then everyone's going to be queued up with a few printers that do reopen, that it'll take it'll take longer for this book to come out than we had anticipated. A little longer, not much. But that gives us a lot more time to get caught up on the following stories.
And if I'm
Hotaru almost all done, completely penciled, by the time we launch it, which would be my goal. So we're looking for June for Hotaru, and then I figure maybe, if depending how quick we get that out, September, October for the next one, for the secret one. So
all good stuff. Well, I may have to jump off, Billy. Is that okay, or am I allowed to do that after?
Oh, I got to finish this page, and
Yes.
I love doing these roughs. I love.
This is the first time I'm seeing this. For God's sake.
Thank you for the massage. Shut up.
No one knows what this all means except
No,
you and I.
I've been doing it for the past hour, so it's fun. All right, Colbean, good to see you. I will send it up to you, gentlemen, in the morning. All right.
Indeed, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you for joining us. We will be back tomorrow night with Crowdfunding Comics at 9 p.m. with This Week in Comics, and where we're going to have our winners and losers list in crowdfunding for the week. So thank you all. Everyone have a great day. You guys are aces.
All righty. Take care, my friends.
Stay safe, everybody. Thank you for joining us.